the Madman! Welcome to Top Custom Cards of the Week. This week, let's get the meme card out of the way first. It's Galvatron. 5 mana 5/5 mech battle cry. Discard your spare parts, adapt once for each one. This is a Paladin card mirroring Galvadon. And look at that, we've got the cool art of Galvadon alongside with some sort of cool flamethrower mech thingy, which it's adapted into one of its parts. Design 1 star. Balance 3 stars. So where do I begin with the design flaws of this? My god, this has adapt and spare parts. And this is a card that was like clearly just upvoted because it looks cool and the art is cool. But when you really stop and think about it, this is a 5 mana 5/5 mech with just completely random text that people have upvoted. Let me just get the balance out of the way. It's a 3 star because a 5 mana 5/5 would get a 3 star in my scale. Like, the text is completely nonsensical and would never matter. So in what world have we ever had spare parts and ungrow in the same set in standard? And the answer is none of them. They were ages difference. It doesn't even make sense from a Paladin perspective of discarding spare parts. Like, Paladin's not a discard class. There are so many things wrong with this card that it's probably best to just say, ha, it's a funny meme card and move forward. Though it's an important lesson that it's a problem to mix mechanics from different sets. And mixing mechanics from one set with a set that's not even in the same block, and by block I mean the 3 sets in a year, that's a big no, because imagine if Goblins vs. Gnomes were the set before Ungrow. When Goblins vs. Gnomes rotates out, Galvatron would become useless, which is just really bad design. So at the very least, you have to mix and match from within the 3 sets in a block. Now let's talk about the card competition entries for the week. The week's design challenge were make a cycle of cards. The cycle of cards is just a set of cards that have a theme to them. First teams presented a few elementals. We've got Ruby Elemental, a 6 mana 6/6 elemental. Battlecry, deal damage to a minion equal to your opponent's unspent mana crystals. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. So I'm going to say that for the design 5-star rating, I hold my reservations about it, and I decided to round basically 4.6 up to a 5 because we're operating off of an integer system. It's not a card that wows me on the design. It's going to be pack filler, and pretty much the entire cycle is doomed to be pack filler because doing stuff equal to your opponent's unspent mana crystals can never really be that imbalanced because Hearthstone is naturally a game in which you're naturally incentivized to spend almost all of your mana crystals each turn, and the only reason why you wouldn't spend mana crystals is because you don't want to overcommit or because you just don't have the necessary resources, either through bad luck or bad planning. A mechanic which punishes your opponent for their bad luck seems bad, but there are decks that more often run out of mana crystals, or have spare mana crystals, I should say, over other decks. For example, control decks have a bunch of answer cards, and if they're not answering things, they sometimes float a bunch of mana. So in that case, this could be said to be an anti-control tech. Aggro decks run out of steam late. They don't spend their mana late game. In that case, these could be said to be a counter against aggro in the late game. So is there a lot of room for this type of mechanic? I think so. I think this is not the best display of the mechanic, but I think the mechanic's kind of good, and these are just happy little pack fillers. Sapphire Elemental, 4 mana 1/6 elemental, gain +1 attack for each of your opponent's unspent mana crystals. Design 5 stars, balance 4 stars. So similar to the Ruby Elemental, except even more extreme. Like, this one is just purely, wow, did my opponent randomly float mana around the 4 mana stage? If so, then great, I'll play this as a big card. If not, then I'm just going to play this as a late card, and then maybe get a boost off of it. It's like, if we're balancing this around expecting the opponent to have 1 unspent mana, then it should probably be a 4 mana 2/6. It's a 4 mana 2/6 with a minor upside. Here's another team's competition cards, and boy, do I not know how the judges passed this team. The team that they were up against must have really sucked. I'm going to grill the heck out of this because This is disgusting in my opinion. We have, first of all, Yadryx Champion, a Paladin, 3 mana, 2/2, Divine Shield, Battlecry, attack a random enemy minion. Design 1 star, balance 5 stars. Issue number 1, and I'll just get rid of the minor issue. Boy, does this card not look like a champion. Second issue, why does Yadryx have a champion? Why is it a random blood elf who looks like just a random citizen? But probably the biggest problem is the mechanic. The Battlecry attack a random enemy minion, which is kind of like Rush, except it's random Rush. Your minion just runs into something. Sometimes you get past taunt that way, but more often than not, it's just random Rush. And is there enough space in the game to create a random Rush mechanic? I don't think so. Might as well just say Rush. In terms of balance, this is similar to the Argent Horse Rider, which is a 3 mana 2/1 Divine Shield with Charge. So it trades off the Charge ability for Battlecry, Random Rush, and gains 1 health. Like Random Rush, I could understand if it was perhaps put on ogres, but not very champion-like, and I think there's very little design space for a set of 3 cards that has Battlecry attack a random enemy minion. But if it were to happen, I would say like it would be 3 pack filler ogres. And certainly not 3 class cards that share a champion theme. Rafam's Champion is a 5 mana 4/4 Warlock card with Lifesteal. Battlecry, attack a random enemy minion. Design 1 star, balance 4 stars. How did Rafam pick up somebody like her to be on his team when he's all about the lackeys? This looks like a champion. 2, why is the champion Rafam a randomly attacking life-stealing minion? This is just Bloodworm with bad Rush attached to it. And yes, that makes Bloodworm quite a bit better, but still not powerful enough. The flavor on these 2 cards is disgusting. Here to save us from the bad flavor is a delicious Omega Acorn. 1 mana Druid spell, summon a 2/2 Treant. If you have 10 mana crystals, summon a 5/5 Ancient instead. Simple. Nice. Design 4 stars, balance 5 stars. I don't think there's much to say about this. It is simple, elegant, but not entirely too exciting. Seems about right for a 4 design card. It's a skill testing mechanic in terms of, do you want to summon a 2/2, or do you want to wait all the way until turn 10 to summon a 5/5? Kinda cool to have a card that's both good in the very first turn of the game, as well as the 10th turn of the game. But in between, it's kinda lackluster. Cool. Pestilent Dreads, a Warlock, 3 mana, 6/5 demon. You cannot draw cards. Design 4 stars, balance 3 stars. I have to dock a point off of design because you simply can't print a 3 mana 6/5 that doesn't have like a huge drawback. I mean, like, the drawback you'd have to print on a 3 mana 6/5 would have to be gigantic. You cannot draw cards. That's a pretty big drawback, but it is not gigantic. I mean, like, you have to make a game-losing drawback to have a 3 mana 6/5. Those stats are just way too high. And that's why the balance is a 3 star. It's too strong, way too strong. Play this on turn 3, just start hitting the opponent for 6. They have to remove it because it's too much pain. If they place up taunts, you just trade with your really efficient minion. But what may be really insane about this card is Succubus is 2 mana 4/3. Sorry, I mean Fellstalker. It has the weakness that you discard a card. So for +1 mana, you're getting +2/+2. You could count Pestilent Dreadstalker as discard a card because not drawing a card is the same as discarding a card. But it's kind of better than discard a card because sometimes you don't discard any cards because you don't not draw a card. Because the 6/5 is so threatening that your opponent has to kill it. So if your opponent kills it on their turn, you literally have a 3 mana 6/5 with no drawback. So I think there are 2 directions that make the text "you cannot draw cards" kind of interesting. The first is on a low threat minion, so I'm saying something for low attack value, high health value, maybe even taunt. Then your opponent has a choice of, ooh, the opponent is sabotaging themselves with "you cannot draw cards, should I kill this minion?" The other is to create such a big threat that your opponent has to deal with it, or maybe they can possibly afford to take some damage to prevent you from drawing cards. But on turn 3, most people are playing 3/4s. not really 4/3s. So even at 6/4, the card would be a bit too unreachable. It needs to be a 6/3. And before you guys say it, no, this is not a control card to avoid fatigue. Imagine trying to put a card in your deck just to play on turn 25 to not draw cards on a minion. That's ridiculous. Very silly. Block Out the Sun. A 6-mana warrior spell. Give a minion +8/+8. End the turn. What a cool novel mechanic. And it is my sadness that I have to give the design a 3-star and the balance a 5-star. I almost considered this for Trump Card of the Week, despite the 3-star design, because this card meets a very fatal mistake, which is not following class identity. Warriors are not known for buffing a card by a lot. When they do buff cards, they either buff taunt cards or damaged cards. It's never been a straight up buff. And that's a huge buff. It's really, really reaching for the warrior identity. Where this card belongs is Paladin. And it's actually more Paladin than you could even think, because Paladins have a design philosophy of like big buffs, but also of playing fair. So I'm going to have a discount on my big buff. But don't worry, opponent, I'm not going to attack you the turn that I play this card. That screams Paladin to me, and it's so cool to think of this card as a Paladin card. It's too bad that the border is red. This card's actually really unique in terms of mechanics. Normally, when you buff a card, it's kind of like the buff card has charge. You usually put a buff card onto a minion that's already in play, so you can attack something and immediately enjoy the effect of the buff. But by ending the turn, that basically makes this card more like a minion. You just play a 6-mana 8/8, it can't do anything this turn, but next turn it can do stuff. And sure, 6-mana 8/8 is overstated, but it has the drawback of you need to have a minion on play, and furthermore, you combine this card with the other minion, which means if your opponent kills that minion, they 2-for-1 you. So, interesting card. But the lack of the Paladin border made it not the Trump Card of the Week. Hapless Shredder, a Paladin 4-mana 4/3, mech, Death Rattle, summoning a random Murloc. This is just Piloted Shredder, except it says Murloc instead of a 2-cost minion. Design 3 stars, balance 5 stars. So kind of boring. Also, I think this might be in the wrong class. Sure, Paladins have stuff to do with Murlocs, but we have to remember the theming of these sets. See Weaponized Wasp, for example. Hagatha is being helped out by Dr. Boom to borrow some of his mech inventions, and Hagatha brings the Murloc, so that's a cool little match. Murlocs in mechs, Hagatha plus Boom, Weaponized Wasp. But Paladin, is a little bit of a stretch to have a Murloc in a mech. And finally, bring on the Trump Card of the Week. It's Sanguine Temper, a Paladin 4-mana 4/7 with Lifesteal, Battlecry, deal 4 damage to this minion. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. I think it is very clever to have a Lifesteal card with a Battlecry deal damage to itself clause. It's very throwbacky to Injured Blademaster. By bumping it by 1 and adding Lifesteal to it, you gain an immediate heal of 4 and then potential healing with the Lifesteal. Usually 4 healing, sometimes 0 healing, sometimes lots of healing if your opponent can't remove it. This card's kind of cool in Paladin because Healing Paladin is a archetype that has never really taken off, and this card gives you 2 things to heal. It not only heals yourself, but it's something that you can heal, and it heals yourself even more in the future. So it's just kind of a cool enabler all around. So thanks for watching this custom Hearthstone review. Soon there's another expansion coming out, and I'm going to be reviewing those real Blizzard cards. But along with the real cards, the custom Hearthstone community can put their heads together and design cards using the new mechanics, and it's always fun to see those. So I'll be reviewing some custom Hearthstone cards at the same time that the real cards are coming out with the new mechanics. I'm looking forward to that.